Well, good afternoon to anybody who may be here today. I had an interesting experience this morning because I received presumably a mass email sent by Restore Britain vetting team asking if I would be prepared to help in my local area. I flattered myself momentarily to think I might have been chosen, but they probably send it to everybody. But given the circumstances, I thought I really would like to accept. And so I wrote back an unnecessarily long and complicated email expressing my desire to help. It's slightly tempered by my fearful nature because of where I live. And standing up can attract negative consequences. I remember I was chatting to a French lady, funnily enough, in a road quite near to my house on the day of the local elections. And she was explaining the danger of reform and how we needed to vote in such a way as to prevent them from having any power or influence in Birmingham. And she considered them to be harmfully far-right organisation, which they aren't, of course. They're not even slightly right, actually. The true right is Restore. And it's not harmful, it's only beneficial. But she gave her views, and then she mentioned some words in French which included liberté, égalité, or something like that. And human rights, well, human rights are a wicked thing, The minute you start getting into human rights, you know that you've lost the plot. There are no such things as human rights unless they're granted by some worldly authority. I understood this years before becoming a Christian. My wife, I lived among left-wing people, all of them, and they had an interest in human rights. But they didn't understand where they came from or how they could be defended other than by increasing layers of legislation and relying on the arm of the state to impose restrictions on their neighbours. I thought about what my rights would be without the assistance of any third party, and they're quite limited, really. I mean, if I had the strength, I could stand up and walk. If I wished to slay a man, I'm sure I could do it, so that right couldn't be removed from me. Although it's not something I aspire to doing at all. So we have the right to be violent. We have the right to be loving. You can't remove those types of rights. But apart from that, which ones do you really have? We live in a world where we're really slaves. Even our right to life is questionable. We live because they allow us to live effectively. Such is their power in relation to our own. The way that society is going at the moment, the bankruptcy, financial bankruptcy and spiritual bankruptcy of the rulers of the world and the political parties is real. Their financial bankruptcy, as it were, or they have bankrupted the states that they presume to control, which is part, presumably, of the overarching plan to reduce our numbers significantly and to make us entirely serfs and dependents, unable to access our own funds without approval in terms of social credit and all the rest of it. And it's not hypothetical. You know, I live now, although I'm still working as much as I can, but the work has dried up, of course, because of the control system and the economic system. And I'm dependent on my pension, which I receive every month. And it's enough to live on. I'm probably not going to be going to Butlins anytime soon, you know, but I really have plenty. But that's a pension. How long are they going to carry on paying pensions? These things are about to be cut off. They don't have the money to do it. And the minute any kind of, you know, leadership challenge, as it were, or if Restore were to be elected into office and heads were to start rolling, then the funds would be cut off because the country is entirely in hock, and our leaders, it seems, many of them are in hock. We don't know the exact mathematics of it. They've sold us down the river, placed us in a position from which we can never really recover. So what is to be? There has to be a releasing of those who are hoarding selfishly, and the repeal and removal of all the laws that bind us in slavery so that we can't even work the land or house and clothe ourselves without appealing to their coffers, their empty coffers now. So, you know, ultimately, if the only way I can get food is to go to the supermarket, and the only way that you can go to the supermarket is to receive some money from the government, then your human rights are nothing to be boasting about, really, are they? If it can be removed, it's not a right, you know. It's a privilege. This is what we're understanding. And when I pointed out that I was a far-right supporter, which I mentioned, and that I don't approve of reform, I was in agreement there, but, you know, we needed... I was speaking more of France because she was criticizing Marine Le Pen, and I was very keen on this lady. I'd listened to her quite a bit, and I thought she sounded great. Oh, she gave me such a look. And we were chatting, there were 3 or 4 together, and as I left the group, I politely saluted all and wished them a good day, but I noticed that this lady didn't even raise her head in my direction. So disgusted was she. So that's the kind of treatment that you'll get, quite apart from the treatment at the hands of some of the immigrant peoples. I don't suppose any of the local Muslims will be particularly delighted to see a Restore Britain councillor in this area. I'm wary of those things. I don't like to be tied to a particular ideology up front, as it were, the same way that I don't go around clasping a Bible in front of me, although it's always in my bag. But I like to take things a little bit more gently, because sometimes people can be triggered and then they become tiresome. I have no desire to argue or debate with anybody. People can believe what they want to. So the persuasive power of pamphleting is debatable to me. But nonetheless, although I have some ideological differences in terms of message proposal, perhaps, I think I'm on board with the policies, and I think it's a wonderful thing. So maybe I'll end up being a political activist in my local area. I would never have imagined anything like that could possibly happen if I'd been asked 12 months ago. But now, how not to lend a hand? It does seem to be a step towards the result that we're all waiting for the freeing of our people. I don't know the religious point of view, and I think, to a large extent, it's none of my business. But at the same time, I would quite enjoy to have, I think, a short chat with Mr. Lowe himself on this subject. Not that I want reassurance, he's free to believe what he pleases, but I would enjoy sharing my perspective. You have to be careful, and it behooves a man to be careful. But we're not speaking to the Lord here. It's not like Gideon laying out the golden fleece for the dew or to see whether it would be dry before God. But cautious walking is always something to bear in mind, I think. So that's the day as it progresses. God bless this day to anybody who may have been here, and may the day be a blessing unto you. I'm reading through Job at the moment, and many blessings coming from the Word of God as usual. Many revelations at the moment. The Lord seems to be pouring out his Spirit upon the land, and it's just something to be thankful for and to celebrate, I think. Many blessings.